here. Long. We went down to the Capitol and lobbied our senators and representatives, and we're getting mixed reviews on how they feel about what we're doing and where we're at. Some won't talk to us, some will, some say they don't have time. What is your view on how they should be handling us? I mean, shouldn't they be more, they serve under you, right?
No, not at all. Actually, what I was going to say is welcome to my world.
You support us, so we have that across the board and everything. And another thing, on the spending limits that we have, with the 6% limit that we have, if that does not get repealed, how much dire straits are we going to be more in, even so, next year?
Well, you have to understand that 6% limit actually has to do with triggering mechanisms. We're not going to grow to 6% this year. There is no forecast that we're going to grow next year, so it actually doesn't have a dire straits projection to it going forward. There's a question about long-term whether we do that. There's actually a constitutional issue that surrounds it, and there's a lot of people looking at this and sort of working on the legality of doing it and the wisdom of doing it, but that's not our big fight right now. Our big fight is creating jobs in this state and doing all the things we can to create jobs. Just to answer your question, I do not have any sort of authority or control over members of the state Senate and state House. They don't work for me. They are, there are some Democrats, some Republicans, and there are times when Democrats vote against me on an issue, something that's my agenda, and when Republicans vote with me. And there are a lot of times where Democrats are voting with me and Republicans are voting against me, and that's just kind of the nature of this business. So you'll really have to forge your own relationship. The people that I do have some level of authority over are the people who who are state employees and who run state agencies. And I have a great relationship with my cabinet, I would say. If there are issues or problems, you can pass them on to me, and we'll see what we can do to address them. But where the Senate and the House are concerned, you're on your own.
I wanted to reiterate something we discussed with the JBC members this morning. One of the things that's not well understood by the media and therefore by the public is the fact that the elimination of the salary survey and other total compensation issues are not eliminating spiffs for state employees.
Not eliminating what?
They are not eliminating spiffs for state employees. What they're doing is lowering the state employees' compensation below the prevailing for the rest of the citizens of the state of Colorado. And while we understand the necessity of that, in the 28 years I've been with the state, we've been asked to share the sacrifices in the off-budget years a number of times. In those 28 years, I cannot recall once that either the executive or the legislature said, hey, we have a healthy budget this year, we have a budget surplus, we're going to pay you back for your sacrifice and we're going to share the joy this time. I think in order to keep faith with the state employees, that needs to be open and explored, because if it's going to be expected in one direction to put us below the prevailing, then in the years when there is a healthier budget, it needs to be accepted that that may be a part of it and it's funded above the salary survey.
That is the purpose of the salary survey, though, is really to ask that question, where the prevailing is, where state employees should be paid, if they're going to be paid, the rate that other people who are their counterparts in the private sector are paid. That's supposed to be the purpose of it. And there may have been times where even we couldn't get to the salary survey because of the budget and because of restrictions in the budget. So I appreciate that, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for a couple of years because of the place we find ourselves in. And I think that's the purpose of this discussion. What people didn't understand about the employee partnership is that there was a no-strike clause on it, and they passed another thing. There's not really collective bargaining, but that the voice of state employees was not really taken seriously, I think, in prior times in that salary discussion. Now there's a mechanism for doing that. It doesn't wind up in collective bargaining, but you have a mechanism for having that voice and being heard at the front end of the process. And I think that is something that's different and something that will be beneficial to you once we get to that place where we began to see sort of the economy climb out of the hole we're in. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Craig Cameron. I'm with the University of Colorado. And higher education has a unique position where we have to go through our board of regents in order to, or actually our president, to get to our board of regents in order to implement any kind of a partnership. And I personally got involved because I was so excited that we would have a partnership with our administration and that we could improve the process. Do you have any suggestions on how we might approach this? Does President Benson work for you?
No, he does not work for me. You're finding out how many people don't work for me. He works for the Board of Regents. He's hired by the Board of Regents. He's president. But what we're doing, where's Marty? Where's Marty? What we're doing is I think, we'll be in our discussions with higher ed about what we think are the benefits here. They really are different. They're different in their sort of decision making around developing these, and we know that. So we structured it to be, a place where they could participate and take advantage of what I think are the benefits that flow from it. And we're trying to have our conversation with them about those benefits. At the end of the day, they'll make their decisions, and I think it's probably helpful for there to be some level of a conversation generated from the employees as well. Thanks. Yes, sir, in the back.
My name is Dennis Berry. I work for DOR. I do work for you. And Roxy seems to be our friend. So she's not one of the directors that's given us a hard time with organizing wins. Just to put in a few plugs. Now, I have a request that I've run up the flagpole with our last two communications directors, and they all agree it's a good idea, but nobody's walked into your office yet.
You ran up the flagpole and nobody saluted you.
I think it's for your man over here. We publish statewide every month. It goes there's access to every state employee. Our communications directors have indicated to me they'd like a column in State Line. Can you either encourage DPA to help us or get us a column in State Line to help us reach out? Because we can't have an organizer walk up to every single person in the state and ask them, will you join? We'd like to get our voice out there as partners.
And so it'd be a monthly column?
A monthly column in State Line.
I'm happy to check into that and see what the resistance is against it. And I'll just see if there's...
I'm not asking for a commitment that
Yep.
we will get it here.
Okay.
But I did run this by the communications directors for WINS, and they elected me to get to talk to.
Was that an election victory? Yes.
Governor Ritter, my name is Rebecca Lavin. I work over at the Annex in IT. And I was just curious. I wholeheartedly support your decision and the JPC's decision to not use furloughs, mandatory furloughs, as one of the solutions currently. I was wondering if you're still thinking about the voluntary furloughs. In your email that came out, you mentioned that things were still in consideration, other solutions to the budget crisis. And there might be those of us that feel rather overworked and in need of breaks occasionally, and might be willing to take that on behalf of the state.
Okay, I'll take that back. That is something that we'll still consider. The problem with that, you can't budget against that. You can't budget against a voluntary furlough because you don't know how many people will take them and who will take them. When I was the DA of Denver, I once did an administrative day off. You could take either the day after Christmas or the day after New Year's, and 2/3 of the people took the day after Christmas, and the other 2/3 took the day after New Year's. It's hard to sort of figure out, right, in your mind what could be voluntary, and that's why you find something like a mandatory furlough day being required, because you can budget against that. You can set a dollar amount, and in the budgeting process, that rules, right? That reigns. And so the question becomes whether or not that can be anything we consider as part of our budget. It could wind up being a cost savings for us and a vacancy savings for us, but just not something we can budget against.